Okay, so let's start off with the Tosfos here, the second Tosfos on Tesvav and Aleph. Dilma as ihi legavaihu. So again, we have the three girsas. Rashi says, Ika, there are those that do it. Gemara says she did go, and Tosfos says Dilma. So he says, Perush letoch beisam, that she had to go, even when she's, what is this kavua? It's only kavua once she actually enters into his house, as opposed to what? The filo betoch ha'ir lo hashav kavua, because even if they're in the ear, so either they came from outside the city and entered into the ear, or she came from within the city and they were in the streets of the ear, that's not called kavua. She went to him and he went to her, and they're like, I don't know, in a cafe somewhere in the city, that's not called kavua. Or he's from the city and he goes to a hotel, so that's not called kavua, which chayr is would be the pashtus, because once you're in the hotel, that's not your place. It's not your mokum. Tedamila nimsa bein hachanis. What's Tosfos' proof that it's not that you're found in the city, you're davka found in the house? Because we are asking the question from, we found meat, nimsa, we found the meat between the shops. The lo chashav kavua, because there we find the piece of meat on the streets. Since we found the piece of meat on the streets, it came from the shop. It's now on the street. It's in the ear, and it's not chutz min the ear, and so once it's outside the house, i.e. the shop, that's enough for it to be poiresh and not called kavua. So this would be a sufi, where that the tinuch, the baby, is just thrown out in the city, so we don't know who the mother is, we don't know who the father is. It's lo chashav kavua, so it's not called kavua because it's ba'ir, it's in the city. So you find a baby in the city, so you'll either have with roiv or goy, or you have a meat of goyim, so that would make the baby kavua, or it would be roiv or a meat is Jewish, so that would make the baby not vadai Jewish. But here we're saying that if you find the ear, it goes basar the roiv, it's called a poirish, so it's not called kavua. However, v'lo nimsa bebayis, so therefore, since it's not in the bayis itself, that's the only place where you have kavua. So therefore he's medayek that he's coming out of his house. So once he's out of his house, he's called a poirish, not a kavua. In Tema de ben Nazir, perach amar ha'oimer l'shlochu tzeva kadash li'isha. So we have a case in Nazir where you say to your shaliach, go and mekadesh me a woman. You just say a stam. So you say isha stam. So you don't say who to Mekadesh. You just said, go Mekadesh me a woman. Asr b'chol hanashim. This guy is also to all the women in the world. So we say it from Kain's Tuma. Kain's Tuma is where a woman who needs to bring a korban of two birds, and one of the birds flies away, so therefore we'll say that bird could be anywhere. So to this woman, should be also to everyone, because anyone who you meet could be we're not worried about this woman herself, because the shaliach went and gave the woman herself kedushin, so we're not worried about her, even though we don't know who she is. Because you find a woman, you say, did you have kedushin ever? And she says no, so you know it's not this woman. However, we are worried for kroivim, and that every woman is sofek to be a korov of this woman. Now maybe if you find someone, you say, do you have, again, you have in the days, I mean, even after the war, people have no clue who their siblings are. And you can have, back in the day, they don't know if they have brothers or sisters. So everybody in the world is also to this guy, because maybe she's a korov, or the sister of this person, this woman who he mekadeshed. Umasa, can we say over there, I said to you, Isha delo naida, I said to you, a woman, and she isn't moving, and you come to say to me by Isra denied, and you're coming to me about the Isra of birds. So the Gemara compares the woman to the case of birds, and then the Gemara says back, don't compare women and birds, because birds are always, right, birds have no place of They're never kavua. Birds are always in a state of moving, whereas the woman is called delonayid. So the woman, the isha, is not moving, so she's called kavua. So the Gemara basically says, I'm talking about kavua, so don't bring me pirish. So so why is this woman called Naid? Because after he goes to the shuk and he makadishes the woman and she goes home. So it seems to be from the Gemara in Nazir that a woman is always kavua. Even though that she took the kedushin in the shuk, she's still called kavua, even though she's not in her house. So that's a question on Taisus, who said that only if you're in the ear it's called pirish. It's only if you're in the house. But here it's the woman is called kavua, even though it happened in the shuk. So he has to make a chiluk. So he found this woman v'kadesh hasam hadra lenichusa. So the Gemara says that there she went back to her place of resting. Mashma legabe adam lo shach called the purush meruba purush become the hadra lenechuse. That every single case of a human, they're always going back to their place, and there's no such thing as pirish by a man, because they always go home at some stage. Once they're home, they're in their place of nichusa, and therefore they're never kavua, they're always kavua. You can't have a pirish. V'lav pirchachi, that's not the way to see it. The hasam b'shasa iser k'shezeh ba'al shum isha hadra lenechusa. So what's the story with the shas iser? So, by the case of our woman, that where the mishaleach goes to the woman and gives her the kedushin. So then she is sofek kavua. So the Mishaleach, this is like this. Hasam b'shasa iser. What's the shasa iser? The shasa iser is when the Mishaleach is now married to this new woman. She sent out stam and someone in the shuk. So woman A makabelt kedushin. Now he's with woman B, which is sofek a relative of woman A. So then he has bia with that woman, so that's the shas iser. K'shezeh ba'al shum isha, so that the mishaleach goes on any other woman in the world. Hadra lenechusa ha'isha shekirish hashaliach. Already the woman who he has had, who makabel the kedushin, has already gone home. So this is at a later stage. That the iser happens at a later stage, and by that later stage she's already gone home. And that doesn't just go home and stay home, but once she goes home once, she has a stin of kavua, our hadra lenechusa, which creates the kavua. Avahaka, in our case, where again dilma azle ihi legavai. So if they went into the city, that they met up in the city and had bia, ki azli inhu legabei b'shas yisura harei hu nayit. Because if he went to her, so either in her house or in the city, the shas iser, he's not in his house. But klape, the guy with the second woman, then already she's in the house. So that's the Tosis. Now if we have a look at the Rambam, roya shenivla be'ir. If you see that she's nivla in the city, or sheniv nitarba be'ir, so she's pregnant in the city. Afilu lo haya sheichin sham. She doesn't live there. Ela akum echad in the city. You've only got one goy or chalala echad or one. So this is the apostle. Now usually again the akum is not apostle for a Jew. It's only apostle for a Kohen. Or chalal echad again. It's only apostle for a Kohen. The Eved, the Kayotze Behen, the Eved's apostle for everybody. So you just have one of those. Harei zeh lo tinaseh lechatchila. So there you can't marry lechatchila. Lekohen shekol kavua k'mechsel mechsahu. Because for every Kohen it is mechsel mechsa. So he's calling this state of nivla be'ir called kavua. So this is not like what Tosis is just saying. Tosis is saying that the ir davka, there's no such thing as kavua. It has to be has to be. V'im nises lo tetze huil v'hi amar location nevalti. But if they do get married, then they don't come out. So lechatchila, they shouldn't get married, but b'di'evid, they can stay married. Okay, so here's the tour. So Fili b'di'evid tesis, right? So according to the Rambam, she has to be. But Parshas Derachim is outside the city. So outside the city is then going to be a case of Peiresh for the Rambam, because anything inside the city is going to be kavua for the Rambam. Shein davar kavua aval roya sheniv lebeir afilu lo shoychin ba ela okom echad tina seilach etchil shkol kavua maxim maxadami. Ve'im nisas lo titzeh whoever masakin. Ad kan, that's the Rambam. But nira defilu nitzbara be'ir. So this is the Torah now. Even if you're she's nivla be'ir im halach a boil aleya. If the boil went to her, tina se lechatchila. So therefore, there's no problem. So here, the Torah is saying that if we know the guy went to her, then there's no issue whatsoever, and then you can marry lechatchila. So we have two roivs. They can marry lechatchila. Kasherim elim ken halacha hi alav. Unless she went to him. So if she went to him, aser. If he went to her, we need two roivs. Now v'stama nami, and this is how it's brought down in the Shulchan Aruch. She'ein yodua mi halach lemi nira tetina say lechatchila. So according here to the Torah. Only if we know that she went to him, is it going to be aser? But Stam will say that, so it's a sofek, we don't know who went where, so then she can marry lechatchila. So now why can she marry lechatchila if we don't know who went where? Seeming as if she went to him, it's aser deraisa, and we're still stuck on how two rovs is going to help. So here in the Beis Yosef, what's going on here? Tina say lechatchila, Beis Yosef on this tour. Devrei Rabbeinu hem lefi hagirsa shekatavti, lo deka'azal ihi legavehu. So that's what the Gemara is saying. This is the girsa of the Gemara. So the Beis Yosef is saying that the Torah had the girsa of the Gemara. And we have here deka'azla lo tzricha deka'azla ihi legavehu. So according to the Beis Yosef, then the Torah is going, that's where he's coming up with his dinim. So again, the dinim are, if we know for sure that he went to her, then two roivs is going to be matter. If we know for sure that she went to him, so then it's aser, because we know she went to him as kavua. But stama, then it's a sofek who went where, so we're matter. But Rashi, he says Ika to Asli Gavaihu, and we don't course in my Ika Yesh Sholechet. We don't have that course. Have like Kavua Hilkacha Fila Baroiv Kasherim or Roiv Heir Rov Siua Apostle Mishum Trey Ruby Akshere. So one Roiv is not a gov. To Rov Stelek Le Migzer Midi. V'chein Nir Shehu Das Atoisvis. So Shehu Gershom Tilma Asla Ihu Le Gaveihu. Maybe she went to him. Again, that's the sofek. Because it says in the Mishnah that one guy came out of Tzipori and then the Baal of Shtuki, even though it was for sure Poiresh, we're still going to need the two roivs. In the Shev Shmaisa, so he brings the Torah, and then we have the with the Beis Yosef Ad Kan L'Shoina. Akachem Divrei Hara. So the Rambam Shestam the Kasav de Nivla Be'ir Lo Tinaseh LeKohen. So somebody who's in the ear. So again, the Rambam is holding that in the city you can't marry a Kohen because it's not called Poirish if you're in the city. Now, Makasha Toivus, let's go on the Shev Smais himself. The name of the Hator Gairis Kahach Girsa Lot Shricha the Ka Isla Ihu the Gavehu. So now he's asking the question on the Beis Yosef, who's saying the Girsa of the Torah. Aval Hecha do you do it the Asla Ihu le Gavehu, but where we know that where he goes to her, Bahachi Sagi Veloboy Trey Ruby. So he's learning that we don't need the two roivs. So those mashma the Torah, we do need the two roivs. But he's saying here in this idea that because when we're geiris lo tzricha deka azleihu, that girsa would mean that we only need one roiv, because if we know she went to him, we don't need. Then it's just called a pyrish. So therefore, one roiv is going to be enough. So so this girsa doesn't fit this idea of we need two roivs. With this girsa, if we know she went to him, then for sure one roiv is enough. It's just pyrish and one roiv is enough. The hakasav the filu nitbar b'halacha bal aleh tinasei lechatchila kevin dicha roiv irvarov siu kasherim. So the Sheikh Shmaisa is saying that the idea that the Beis Yosef is saying that the Torah has this girsa is not correct, because that girsa tells me I don't need two roivs, and the Torah says I do need two roivs for lechatchila. So even though we know he went to her, we need two roivs, and that's what it says in the Ritva. So it gets a bit mixed up according to Svara, according to in the Beis Yosef. So now the Sheshmais is saying that the girsa that's in the Gemara doesn't work according to the Svaras. And again, all the Rishonim are saying something else. It's not like what the Gemara is saying. The Gemara is saying that if our case, the pashtus of the Gemara is that our case is that she went to him and we're matter with two roivs. And now he's saying that basically all the Rishonim don't explain that way. The Beis Yosef is trying to say that the Torah had that girsa, and he's trying to say that we need two roivs when he went to her. And he said, well, that doesn't fit. So it doesn't fit. Everyone's talking about the Gemara, and he's basically saying that this idea doesn't fit based on all the Shittas of Shas. The Imkain, my parach. So again, we have the whole thing. We can tell by the question from the 9 shops as to what the original question was. The benimsa halach achar roiv kevin dahasan biyadu shapirish mehachanus mahani roiv. So in the 9 shops, in the nimsa, we go after the roiv, because there we know that it is pyresh from that roiv. So therefore, for sure, it's a pyresh. It's not that the meat went in there; it's a for sure pyresh. We have to say it's like Rashi. You can't say that she went there because we're asking from the 9 shops. The meat didn't go into the shop. The meat from the shop outside. So it's called a poirish. It's not called a went in there. So we know that for Gazrinen, Afilu Yodea Shapirish Mishum Kavua. Our whole thing is that even though. So what's happening in the Chanvanias? We're saying that when it's poirish, we don't need to have a Gezerah. And then our teretz is no, we have a Gezerah of even though when we know when it's poirish, out to where either we don't know it's poirish or where it's Kavua. So therefore, since that's the whole Gemara, so therefore, we're saying where there's a din of Poiresh, there has to be a Gezerah after when she goes to him. That's what the Gemara is saying. So we can't have a text of that. No, the whole case of where she went to him. But if he went to her, you're mutter. We can't have that because the whole question from Nan Chavanios, and then we're saying, Nan Chavanios says, well, that me'ikar din if you're Poirish that works. But here in our case, we're Geyser. So therefore, it has to be the case of where you need two roivs, even in a case of where he went to her. Mishum hachi poitre ruby, again that's the Gezerah. Lezeh maksha teisha chanvanios to lo poitre ruby. Therefore we say, 9 shifts, you don't need two roivs, 1, and we don't Geyser nimsa atu kavua. U'mochortet bedasa Torah k'moshe kasev. The Torah said, the Ruby Shabashas, roiv ha'ir, kosher v'roiv oivrin derech ha'ir. Ma'alma. So now this is going against the Rambam. So what is the two roivs? So again, this isn't going to help for the Rambam. What are the two roivs in the Shas says in the Torah? Roiv ha'ir, kosher, v'gam oivr derech ha'ir. The people are passing through the city. So therefore, if it happened in the city, in the public places in the city, so then so therefore we don't need to have it happening outside. So it's not like the Rambam, and that's going from the Shev Shmaisa. Do we need to roiv the 9 shops? So again, the idea of when the shops, when the city is closed, there's only one roiv, and then we have the second roiv. Now again, does it really help? You're in Bnei Barak, you close everything up, so you only have any meat you find there has to be from the shops that sell meat, and most of them are kosher. You open up the doors and you have people coming through. The visitors to Bnei Barak are also a bunch of frummies, so any meat that they drop is going to be kosher. So therefore, you find a piece of meat on the floor. If it came from the Bnei Barak, it's kosher, because most batches are kosher. If it came from outside Bnei Barak, it's kosher, because most people bring kosher meat, or most meat that's brought into the city is kosher. So you have two roivs. I don't know if it it doesn't really make any sense that it makes it any more likely that, again, if no one's allowed into Bnei Barak, so then the meat is kosher because most butchers are kosher. So I have two roivs. Even if it's not from the butchers, it's kosher anyway because it's from outside. I don't say now. You could say, well, if you only have, let's say, two roivs better than one roiv, because if roiv psoilim are from outside, so then even if it's not from the shops, then it's possible. And here, even if it's not from the shops, it's kosher. But I don't see how that I don't see how that makes any sense. That having a second roiv is actually going to help anything. And if Amar Zira. So even though it's locked, anything that the places that the Medina is open is two roivs. So again, it seems to be quite stark against the Rambam. That attack in the middle of the city, because that's the pashut of the Gemara, that once the doors of the city are open, that's called trei roiv. But according to the Rambam, if you're inside the city, it's not going to help to have two roivs, because in the city it's called kavua. You have to be outside the city legamri, and your roiv is that the people from the city that go to this place are kosher, and the people that pass through this place are kosher. So that's the Rambam has the two roivs. The from the Gemara, it doesn't seem to ruknim kain hu adin biyuchsin. You need two roivis, two roivs. Ela dekashali kaven de ikr gezera mishum kavua. And that's the Gazrinan Azli Inhu Lagavai, Atu Azli Ihu Lagavai, so that we are Goizering when she went to him. So to have a like Im Kain, Mama Hani Roiv Oivrim. How does it help? The second Roiv. Derech Ha'ir. Kavin de Nivla Toich Ha'ir. So since she is Nivla in the ear, Ve'ilu Hayu Azli Ihu Lagavaihu, and if she went to them, Afal Kav de Roiv Oivrim Derech Ha'ir kosher, even though the people that are passing through the city are kosher, Kavin de Ika Miut Poislim. Kavua pa'ir. So how does that help? We still got the problem of kavua. We haven't, once she goes to him, we haven't solved anything, because the mirs of pesulim are always going to create the kavua. Havele kamechsa amechsa gam neged roi fa'oivrim derech ha'ir. So therefore we're just stuck with whether she went to the city, there's a kavua. Whether she went to the siyua, there's a kavua. No matter what she's doing, there's a kavua. Once she goes to him, there's a kavua. How does two roivs help? And then Beker did near mucha kativrei hetur. But we're gonna go like the Torah. It's all good. You have to say that we didn't go through perish out to kavua ele hechet eleka ele roiv ha'ir greda. So where were we? Goizer. The kavua for the rov, where there is only roiv ha'ir greater. That's the only time we have a gezerah. If we have a second roiv, lo gozru, there's no gezerah. So since we have two roivs, there's no gezerah. Perush atu kavua. We don't goizer perush atu kavua. Mihu perush al kol panem be'inyan. But we do need to have this idea of perush. Can't have the kavua, can't have her going there. To eat asli inhu lekaveyu have like miut. The kavuyu of a kamaksa neged roiv ha'ir. So therefore, even though we have no gezerah, we have to have a level of pirish. We can't have that. So if we know for sure she went there, even with two roivs, it's not going to help. If you angel tos medinas los economy roiv ha'oivrim derech ha'ir to call asle ihu legaveyu havi le'miut so the kavuyu be'ir kamaksa machsa mashkafs. Therefore, once we know that she went, so if she went to him, we're stuck in the gezerah. We're not gezerah. I think it's just possible. The habeis yosef kasav zalvestama. Nami she'en yedua mi holech lemi. So the Beis Yosef says, we don't know who went to who. So now we're in a case of sofek. It's not stama nami. We're in sofek. It's not that we know she went to him. We don't know.
Tina say lechatchil ner shetoyin shekaven de ein ze min adin ela mishamala ba'alma. So the ikara din isn't the gezerah isn't mikara din. Stama is not mikara din. It's mala ba'alma kol heicha de lo yadin and as a lekula. So therefore, since we don't know, we go lekula. V'tameni the mala eino eloim yodua shepirush. The mala is only if we know that they separated. So he's stuck on the point of that if it's sofek. How can you tell me if it's sofek kavua, we're good to go? He's stuck on this point, and again, I'm stuck on this. But how is sofek kavua good to go? I'm wondering on the Beis Yosef. The whole mala is only where we know that they were poiresh Baal Etzla when he went to her. That's where the whole gezerah kicks in. The b'chol Torah azin basar chad roiv, and then we now need 2 roivs. That's the whole gezerah. Umishamala, we need 2 roivs. Val im lo yedin and im pirush law avis fekas deraisa. Yeah, so we don't know. If the case is, we don't know. And the Torah says, Mistama, that's this case of sofek. Mistama, yeah, you can marry lechatchil. Like, why? We have a dinner. What are we doing with this kavua? V'yefshar lefi ma demashmin divrei harashba v'ritva v'chrisya perach asara yechsun gavi shtuki roiv kashurin etzla. So, there's the Rashba of the Kedushin. So here's the Bavli. Elohen Shtukin. Amarava. Dover Torah. Shtuki kosher. My timer, Roiv kasher Isla, Umiyat Psulin Isla. So Shtuki, again, Shtuki is somebody who we don't know who the father is. So we know who the mother is, but we don't know who the father is. So Shtuki, Deraisa is kosher. What's the reason? Roiv are kosher Etzla and the Mira Poislin Etzla. So Roiv are kosher, Mira Poislin. Ve'i Asli Inhu Legabe, and if he went to her, called the Porish Mubba Porish. So therefore, the Shtuki is kosher, because we've got 2 options. Option number 1 is that he went to her. Since he went to her, we go bust the roiv. Since we go bust the roiv is kosher. Maya Marta dilma azla ihu legavehu. Maybe she went to him, and therefore it's kavua. Havi le kavua kol kavua maksa dummy. So the Torah says lo yevo mamzer vaday hu de lo yevo ha mamzer sofek yevo bekahal vaday hu de lo yevo ha bekahal sofek yevo. Now deraisa, a mamzer needs to be a vaday. Deraisa, a sofek mamzer is much deraisa, because it says mamzer lo yevo mamzer. Therefore, a mamzer vaday only so the rabbanan were machmir and said a mamzer sofek can't enter the kahal. Now, mamzer sofek can't marry anybody. Can't marry a mamzer because deraisa, a sofek mamzer can't marry a mamzer because a mamzer deraisa is also to a sofek mamzer because it's only sofek mamzer deraisa. So can't marry a mamzer, can't marry a Jew because the rabbanon or sofek. But you need a mamzer vaday. So here the Gemara Irin Kedushin is saying that maybe she goes to him and creates a kavua, and it's meksa, so it creates a sofek. So Rashi here, Maya Marta me'ezetam tavula poslo dilmadlihu ein ze elu sofek. It's only a sofek, but Torah Amra mamzer vaday. Do I have the law about mamzer sofek? So here, ein ze elu sofek. What's not a sofek? The Gemara is creating a case of. Okay, once again, Dilma Azla Ihu Legavayu. So this woman either Azla into on one side he went to her, on the other side she went to him. So it's a sofek kavua. What do we do with the sofek kavua? Says Rashi, sofek kavua is sofek. Ein ze ela sofek. So sofek kavua is a din of sofek. Rashba. Maya Marta Dizla Azla Ihu Legavayu. Have a kavua. Ikilamita kakati de ruva ninhu. So you can say it's still a roiv. The iyaz legabay. Because if he went to her, havi le ruva. So you have the roiv kosher. For iyaz leihi legabay. She went to him, havi le mechsa. So we have kind of like 4 dinim here. Roiv, mios, 50 and 50. Let's say 80, 20, 50 and 50. Nimsa haroiv lahakshir. So ding ding ding. We've got roiv lahakshir. So in the first case of where she went to him, of when he went to her, we have 80 kosher and 20 puzzle. And then in the case of she went to him, we've got 50 kosher and 50 puzzle. So add the 50 to the 80, or if you divide it by 2, whatever, it's 40 and 10 plus the 50. So we've got 90 and 60. And so you add the mius to the 50 and the roiv to the 50. So nimsa haroiv lahakshir. V'yei shloimer de l'revchel milta. So the way the Rashba learns, what's the din of a sofek kavua? Din of a sofek kavua is a gobos of the roiv, where you work out what the roivs are and you see what it is. The sofek kavua, you add them all up, and if it's roiv kosher, so you have a roiv kosher. So the way that Rashi learns that a sofek kavua stays as a sofek. According to the Rashba, a sofek kavua comes out as a roiv. So in our case, since we have two roivs, even if she goes to her and that's sofek, we have the two roivs, and therefore even the kavua creates a 50-50. The other side will create the roiv in order to kick us through. So from the Divrei Rashba, im azla ihu legavayhu or lo have le sfek sveka. So here you use the lashon sfek sveka. Really, sfek sveka means a sofek kavua, and he has these two dinim of sfek sveka. You have a sofek of the roiv, and you have the sofek of the kavua. Now, when you have two roivs, where sofek vata, they went to what in the sofek, right, where she went in on that side. For sure, she went to one of them, and one of them becomes a 50-50. One of them becomes mexa. One of them becomes kavua. The other roiv stays as a roiv and adds to the kavua, and then makes that 50 more kosher. So if you only have one roiv, we're sofek if she went there, and then when it's kavua, it's 50-50, and we're stuck. So therefore, the sofek of the kavua would stay as a. It would just stay as a kavua because we only have one roiv. When you have a second roiv, they go to the. So if she went to the city people, so then they're kavua. So then the roiv of the siyua would be machriya, and therefore we have a roiv here, and therefore they can stay married. And if she went to the siyua, so the siyua people are kavua, and then we have the roiv kosher of the city people, and then that will make it that the sofek kavua is a roiv. And therefore, on both sides, we have roivs, and we have the two roivs on the side of that. And then we need two roivs. We need both of those roivs to be kosher. Because if one roiv of them is possible, then if she went to the kosher roiv, they become a kavua, and then the possible will be machriya. So, Savak Shema Azihu Havili Roiv Im Tim Silon with Azihu Shema Lakasha Nivla Ein Sham. Kain Kaven the Ika Svek Sveka, again it's a sofek, it's a Savak Kavua. Lakula, we go Lakula, Eina Ela Mishom Mala, Ba'alma, Amrina Mistama, Haboil Halach, Etzla. So therefore we say Mistama, so this whole thing is of a Kavua, so therefore we say Mistama, that he went to her. Ela Mistima Sapoiske Mashma Tikiha Gavna Im Anu Mesufik Bukavua, Im Perishalo, Lahavi Svek Sveka. So from the Psukim he's saying in this way that we're sofek in the Kavua, in Perishalo, Lo Have Svek Sveka. Yeah, so we had this in the Tosfos on Tes and on Aleph, that if it's one din in the sofek, it's not called a Svek Sveka. So if you have you can't create two Svek Svekas out of the same sofek. So we had there that is she a child, and maybe if she wasn't a child, or she I can't remember what the thing was, but it was both in the same. It was in the same Indian. Yeah, where the Tosfos brings Rotzen into a katana. That a katana is always ba'oinus. So maybe it was oinus, maybe it was Rotzen. But even if it was Rotzen, maybe it was a katana and it was oinus. So it's the same din. You're creating. It's the same. So it's oinus and Rotzen. You're creating two svekas out of oinus for Rotzen. It's the same. It's the same shaila, whether she's oinus or Rotzen. So he says we don't go. But that's the Iker. That's the Iker Pitron here in the Shev Shmaisa, going according to really the Rashba in Kedushin. that when you have a sofek kavua, we could bust to the roiv. We add it all up, and therefore you need 2 roivs. And therefore, even though we have an issue of that it's a sofek kavua, it's not an issue because the second roiv makes it okay.